Howdy guys, Jimmy Song here. I wanted to make a new video, this one sort of pre-recorded instead of doing it live because I wanted to make sure that I covered a lot of stuff that I wanted to cover. And given what's been going on in the markets and stuff, I thought it would be a good time to talk about a lot of this. Specifically, I want to talk about Bitcoin's value proposition. A lot of people sort of ignore the long-term value proposition of Bitcoin. They've been gambling the whole time. And if you're one of those people, this video is very much aimed at you. I want to make sure that you understand what the long-term proposition is. And if you don't agree with it, I think you should sell. But if you do agree with it, then I think you should hold. The worst thing to do, though, is to hold for a little bit when it goes up or down, and then just sort of get out and like breathe a sigh of relief. That's not what I want you to do. I want to make sure that you understand what's going on, and either get ready to load up some more or sell entirely. But the idea here is that I want you to be convinced of the long-term value proposition with this video. Anyway, the two things that a lot of people talk about are store of value and medium of exchange. Those are the two main things. That's more or less what's caused the Bitcoin versus Bitcoin Cash split. And I want to make the case for the store of value. Now, I'm convinced that most people value Bitcoin not for spending, but as a store of value. Because if you were valuing it for spending as a medium of exchange, as something to go and pay somebody with, then you wouldn't actually care about the price at all. Because most of the time you would be converting from fiat to Bitcoin, and then using Bitcoin as a medium of exchange. You would pay for it and then get the good. It would be literally the medium, right? Like it's not either endpoint. It's not something you keep it in. It's something that's in between, medium, right? And if that is how you use it, and there are people that use it that way, namely people that are utilizing Bitcoin in places that aren't conducive to traditional financial instruments like Visa or MasterCard or cash, like buying drugs off the darknet or doing foreign remittances or something like that. Those are places where people don't actually really care that much about the price of Bitcoin. As long as my money gets there to the other side without losing anything, then I don't care, right? Like the risk is in like 20 or 30 minutes at a time, and not over a period of weeks or months or years. So really, those people don't care about price. But you look around and talk to anyone that owns Bitcoin, they care very deeply about price, because they're thinking long term. They're thinking 5-10 years. They're not using it as a medium. They're using it as one of the endpoints, like a store of value. And that's who I'm trying to appeal to here. If you actually believe that it holds value, then Bitcoin makes all the sense in the world. And I would argue, like with medium of exchange, like vast majority of the time, cash or credit cards or something like that is way better as a medium of exchange than Bitcoin is, because in order for it to be a good medium of exchange, you need lots of people to accept it. And of course, almost everyone, at least on the internet, accepts a credit card to purchase things, and that gives it a tremendous amount of utility, and it has orders of magnitude more utility than Bitcoin in that regard. Whereas with store of value, fiat currency, credit card, all that stuff, they're horrible, right? Like credit cards have a high interest rate, so it's you don't want to store value that way, or really extract value from your debt instrument that way. You also don't want to you don't want to store value with dollars because it gets inflated over time. The latest statistics say that the money supply is increasing something like 6 or 7% a year. The inflation statistics that they tell you aren't necessarily that true. And this is pretty obvious just looking at prices for milk in the last 10 years or something like that. Anyway, the key thing here is that we are in kind of a bear market right now. And you don't need to panic if you believe in the long-term value proposition, if you see it as a store of value that you can keep for the long term. If you're thinking in terms of weeks or months, you're not going to do very well in this. And that's because Bitcoin does tend to have these volatile crashes and high rises and stuff like that. And that happens quite a bit. And if you're looking at months, it's not going to do very well for you. But if you're looking at years, you're going to do very, very well. I mean, 5 years ago, Bitcoin was at like anywhere from like $1,500 to $1,100. You bought at any of those times, you're still doing well now. And that's kind of how you have to look at it. By 2023, Bitcoin will be doing much better than it is now. And that's the conviction that you need to have to be a holder. So what can you do during this time? Well, my suggestion is that you start building, you start contributing, and get ready for the next cycle. And that may mean that if you have some money, you wait for a good time to buy, or or earn money, so you have some money ready to go buy some of this stuff. You might want to work for Bitcoin in some capacity and earn Bitcoin in some way. And we have no idea how long this bear market's going to last. It could last 6 months like it did in 2013, or it could last 3 years like it did from 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017. It might take a long time. And that's something that you're just going to have to figure out. So, I mean, you're not going to figure it out. It's just something that you're going to have to deal with. And I've said this before, it takes a lot of virtue in order to hold. It takes a lot of patience, it takes a lot of courage, it takes a lot of conviction, it takes a lot of wisdom, it takes a lot of prudence, it takes a lot of temperance. And, sort of knowing, like limiting the downside, but having sort of unlimited upside, that's the goal. And you got to set yourself up for that. And that may mean that you go out and work for the next few years in doing stuff so that you can accumulate more Bitcoin. But anyway, that's the message I wanted to send. And hopefully I did this in a short enough video. Thanks for listening, and this song is done.